Do you find him to be an honest actor?
Oh, yeah, he absolutely, what he said about what he found, but again, he's secondhand. My whistleblowers are direct firsthand.
He has said that he's actually had firsthand knowledge since getting that critique. So, and I don't know exactly what that is, but...
Well, he's been pulled into some, but the problem is he got attached to a gentleman named Luis Elizondo, who is mainly there to provide partial truth. If you put out some information and then attach the disinformation to it, there's a threat. We need to, go to World War III in an alien battle. We don't have these technologies ourselves. We've never developed that advance. When I have direct people who've worked on, built, and flown the man-made UFOs. They're extraterrestrial vehicles. They're NHI craft. There are man-made lookalikes and facsimiles. And there are things from other dimensions that are really nasty.
Okay.
That are not extraterrestrial.
And you're saying if you...
But they're being deliberately conflated by people like Jim Semivan and Elizondo and others to gaslight people in Congress.
But wouldn't Jacques Vallée have said that too? Wouldn't he sort of say...
No, because in the 80s he got taken in by that organization.
Wow.
We are not going to tolerate people who spread knowingly or unknowingly disinformation that could lead to an interplanetary war and the termination of life on Earth.
Well, that'd be a bummer.
That's what that agenda is. Don't be naive. This is too important a matter to allow someone who's in there sort of telling half-truths. And this is why I will immediately separate with someone who commingles known false information with information. Now, if they do it unwittingly, it's okay as long as they correct it. If they're doing it deliberately, like Luis Elizondo, it's a bridge too far. Number one, he tells people, and has told people consistently, we don't know what the... Change that a little, because he has to. Then he said they're a threat to the national security. The implication being the NHI, non-human, are a threat. Which, if that's the case, then we're going to go to World War III in a Star Wars fiasco. And then he would also say, we don't have anything that flies like that. They want everyone to believe there's a threat from out there, because the card they want to play, that Werner von Braun warned about on his deathbed to my friend Carol Rosin, was they want to create an alien threat to unite the world in this sort of dystopian, not a golden age, but a dark age of militaristic totalitarianism. So if Lou and his guys move in that direction, I got to call it out. You run this algorithm like they're doing it. Oh, we don't have any craft like that, because they don't want the National Military Command structure to know that something they encounter, like Mr. Fravor did, was ours. Right. No, they're very interested. Unfortunately, Don Jr. got gaslit about a lot of this by Elizondo with false information. Joe Rogan has totally been misled.
Your episode with Rogan got deleted or something?
Well, in order to get his money from Spotify, they had to take it out.
Really?
Oh, of course. So if you're not corruptible with money, and if you're not somebody who's going to try to jump the shark by getting on the inside for the technologies, is what happened. That was Bigelow's Achilles heel.
Do you think Bob Bigelow has a warehouse with UFOs in them in Vegas?
No. That was all set up so that the $22 million that Harry Reid helped get to Bigelow Aerospace to research this would be, here's what that operation was. Send the money to that. Now, Bigelow didn't know this. He really didn't. He was innocent. Send the money to there. They get the money. The Pentagon thinks they're going to get a serious research effort. You might as well have opened the toilet lid, flushed $22 million down to the sewer, because that was the setup. They said to me, we didn't get anything of any value out of all those millions of dollars. I said, no, because the person who was actually directing that operation is someone who has been key to covering this up for decades as part of this rat pack of guys named Colonel Alexander, who, by the way, is the consigliere mentor for one Lou Elizondo. And I really think what Bigelow wanted to do is that he wanted to get on the inside of the tech and what was really going on with the intelligence community, but he wanted the access. So they find what your soft spot is. Where's your soft underbelly? What Werner von Braun warned about, right? He said, look, the whole plan is to stage an alien threat so we can unite the world around this sort of fascist a totalitarian, militaristic sort of thing. That's what the drones were all about, by the way. I mean, Mr. Trump got that wrong. We know what that was. That was that was a psyop by the same people who are trying to be sure that when this comes out this year and next, that it's done with the specter of fear.
Are you saying that these organizations that are in possession of this technology and that control this stuff, that are keeping it away from the U.S. government, are they like their own autonomous government, slash military slash Air Force that is completely detached from any other world government?
They're detached and embedded at the same time.
And almost and more, arguably more powerful.
Oh, way more. Absolutely, way more. Well, it's sort of like if you remember a brilliant guy, Senator Inouye of Hawaii, who did the Iran-Contra hearings.
Right.
And he said there exists a secret government, shadow government, with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own funding mechanism that's free from the law and above the law itself. These UFO issues, that's the crown jewel of this shadow secret government operation. Now here someone like Mr. Grush. He was telling 100% the truth until he started telling tall tales that were being fed to him by Lou Elizondo about how the aliens had blown up villages in, I don't know, South America or someplace. That was
Elizondo told him that?
Yeah. So he fell into that disinformation trap along with the information.
Tom DeLonge, who's the co-founder of Blink 182 and who's worked with you.
Oh, way back when he was a kid. Yeah, we had.
Yeah. To the Stars Academy. That was the one thing that you guys worked on together.
Oh, no. That was Lou Elizondo intercepted him, gaslit him, used him, and spit him out.
Do you still keep in contact with Tom?
I haven't in a while because once he got pulled into the disinformation nexus, right? Then he got convinced that evil alien, there were these good and bad evil aliens in a war, and then he got convinced, and then he got pulled in by Lou Elizondo into doing To the Stars Academy, and then he got run over.
What are your thoughts on Stephen Greal?
I don't know him. So I don't ever usually have an opinion on anybody. I never talk about anybody if I haven't had a chance to meet them personally.
What do you think about what he says? Because
well, where are the whistleblowers? And I'll tell you, if isn't he the same guy they wrote an article about, if I'm not mistaken, who apparently was accused of taking people on a tour and then paying some dude to pay, like $500 to drop flares out of a Cessna. Anyways, you know, my mom always told me if I have nothing kind to say, don't say it at all. I've never met the man, but you know, it's nonsense. I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, look, where are the whistleblowers? No, I don't watch his material.
Okay, in your world, who is Stephen Greal or types like him in your world in the military? How do folks look at someone like Stephen Greal?
We don't deal with him. ATIP was only focused on military encounters. And so, you know, as a civilian, I'd never met him. I don't know much about him. And, you know, I've never worked with the guy. I'm aware of his feelings towards me. He's certainly entitled to whatever feelings he wants. But, you know, proof is in the pudding. You know, we got videos released. We've got Congress involved. We've got an Arrow now, an organization that's been established. We've got whistleblowers coming out. You know, I don't know what to tell you. You know, the people are free in this country to do what they want, listen to who they want. It is a free country. And I encourage people to get all sides of the narrative. I will never tell anybody, don't talk to somebody. Go ahead. Do you want to? Be my guest. You believe the data. This is the problem. When anybody gets up there and says, believe only me, that's a problem. What I think, it doesn't matter what Lou Elizondo thinks. What matters is what you think. Here's the data. My job is simple. Here's the data. Right. You figure it out yourself what it means to you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you weave some little narrative about, you know, history. Look, here's the bottom line. You can analyze it yourself. There it is. You figure it out. You know, that's the problem I have with a lot of people out there who prescribe narratives, right? Like, oh, this person's a disinformation agent. Do you even know what that means? This is my trouble I have with people. And this is why when people ask me my opinion, I don't really like to share it because I've learned one thing in the intelligence community. You can be absolutely sure of something and still be absolutely wrong. Here's the data. And then you figure out what this means to you, because this topic is a lot more like, you know, people talk about, oh, the military industrial complex, and they're trying to, look, I don't want a general telling me how to feel about this topic. If it's a national security issue, great. Now, as far as the charlatans, I'm not going to give any attention to individual charlatans because they already have enough attention. They know exactly who I am referring to. These are individuals who have made a cottage industry, a career of taking people's hard-earned money and deceiving them, not only deceiving them, but having them sign non-disclosure agreements to make sure they don't tell the world that they've been deceived, and preying upon people who for whatever reason believe in them. People who say my narrative is the only narrative, and anybody else who tells you otherwise, is trying to hurt you. I have all the answers. I have the solution. Anybody who says that, I think is a charlatan. And they're dangerous for several reasons, because if they're lying to you about that, they're probably lying to you about other things in their life, their past life and their current life, which may or may not come to light at some point.
What else are the motivations of some of these charlatans, or potentially could be their motivation, other than financial?
Well, look at any religious charlatan. It's the same thing. It's a cult of personality. It's somebody who, for whatever reason, thinks it's all about them. Real, true, deep psychological issues, some sociopathic, to be honest with you. Imagine everything you've been taught, whether it's through Sunday school or through regular formal education in school, or what our political leaders have told us, and yes, even maybe our mothers and fathers around the dinner table have told us, or maybe at bedtime, about who we are, right? In our background and our past. What if all of that turned out to be not entirely accurate? In fact, the very history of our species, the meaning, what it means to be a human being and our place in this universe. What if all that is now in question? What if it turns out that a lot of the things that we thought were one way aren't? Are we prepared to have that honest question with ourselves? Are we prepared to recognize that we're not at the top of the food chain, potentially? That we're not the alpha predator, that we are maybe somewhere in the middle? Mankind's been around for a little while. And for most of that time, mankind's been around. We've been smack in the middle of the food chain. We've been, we ate a lot of things, and a lot of things ate us. And about 70,000 years ago, something fundamentally changed. Something changed. And our species was instantly catapulted to the very top of our planet as far as predatory animals. And now all of a sudden, we became the most feared. We were the most lethal. That changed the entire global landscape of our planet almost overnight. What if it turns out that there's another species that is even higher on that ladder than we are? Do we need the social institutions that we have today? Will we need governmental and religious organizations that we have today if it turns out that there is something else or someone else that is technologically more advanced? Have we been wasting our time all this time? Or are we doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing? Does it turn out that mankind is in fact just another animal in the zoo? There's going to come a point in this conversation where we're going to have to do a lot of reconciling. Do we find ourselves in a situation where history may have to be rewritten? I think there's always fibers of truth in a blanket of lies, because that's what holds it together.
And who would know better than Louise that there's always a fiber of truth and a blanket of lies? What a artistic metaphor for lying. It's almost like he's somebody that's been trained to lie his whole life. It's weird. Welcome to the live show, y'all. Hope you're having a fantastic evening. We're gonna talk about a few things tonight. A few interesting things. Also, yeah, we're gonna talk about kind of some breaking stuff on X. And what we found out about some of these personalities that think they're in some kind of exclusive group, that think they're getting exclusive information, that are more than likely just being fed a line of bullshit. Weird that the intelligence community or intelligence community lackeys would pursue podcasters and messages on X. Of course it's not weird. Of course that makes sense. So, Red Panda Koala, friend of the show, dropped this little bomb the other day, and really, he kind of just pointed us to it. But if you take a good look here, there was a member of this chat group named Klaus. And if you look at the members of this group, you've got Jonathan Davies, Brandon Fugel, Eric W. Davis, Gary Nolan, Hal Putoff, Jay Stratton, Kit Green, Leslie Keene. Just a few of the folks you'll find in that group. Why would this group of folks have a chat space going on X where they invite exclusive members of this podcaster community in? Well, I'll tell you why. So that they can control the message. So that they can control what you hear. So they can control what you think. You should be fucking pissed off that Leslie Keene is in this group. Leslie Keene, who wrote the 2017 New York Times article that sparked a lot of this current interest in the subject. I now believe probably 98% of the stuff we see in our skies as identified as UAP is ours. And all of this shit is a decoy. It's exciting. It's interesting. It's fascinating. And for those of us that grew up in the 90s with Mulder and Scully, it's like unfathomable. It's shocking and exciting and fun at the same time. But what if it's not fucking real? I started this show investigating this stuff. And I'll tell you, I've never seen so much circular reporting on a subject in my entire life. I've never seen so much trust me, bro, than I have seen in my entire life. So much so that people are getting paid off of this. You understand that? People are making money off of this messaging. And for you podcasters that took it hook, line, and sinker, they're making money off of you. And while you think you're out there digging for the truth, you're not. You're promoting bullshit. It's one thing to investigate interesting stories, but it's quite another to say that they're fact and try to scare people with them. So support Klaus and what he's doing for exposing this nonsense. Support Red Panda Koala and what he's doing for echoing Klaus's message that this is bullshit. Klaus was brought into that group apparently by Gary Nolan, who I guess had to vet him before allowing him into that group. If you are in this field, if you are curious about this stuff at all, you need to consider everything. Just like we consider the possibility that life from another galaxy or even dimension could be visiting us, we have to consider that all of this is bullshit designed to distract us from what is really happening. While we talk about these crazy technologies that these extraterrestrials have, our own government is developing them in black programs, special access programs, unacknowledged special access programs. Sometimes when you first see a scientific breakthrough, it comes across as magic. Like a solid that's 98.9% air and almost impenetrable. These things seem like magic. Now, speaking of fear-mongering, Avi Loeb is still, in spite of the facts, he's still out there saying 3i Atlas is an alien ship or could be an alien ship. The image right there that I've just pulled up, this is the most recent image of 3i Atlas, and that's the tail that people were saying it didn't have. So don't get caught up in the hype, y'all. Sometimes it's better to wait and be right than to be first and be wrong. This is Avi Loeb today. Today, after we know what we know about 3i Atlas.
Now to a mystery in space we've been following since it first appeared in our skies 3 months ago. We are talking about that interstellar object known as 3i Atlas. Most scientists think it's a comet, but one high-profile Harvard astronomer has been making the case on this show and other places that its anomalous behavior and characteristics suggest that it might be alien technology of one kind or another, perhaps a probe. 3i Atlas recently passed closest to the sun and will soon pass close to the Earth. But it may not be in one piece when it does. Professor Loeb says that based on his calculations, it looks like 3i Atlas has been losing an extreme amount of mass, which could mean it's exploded into a dozen smaller pieces. So, is it just another fascinating celestial phenomenon, or did the mothership just separate into a squadron of reconnaissance aircraft? Harvard professor Avi Loeb joins us now. That question is only slightly in jest, given everything you've been saying. Did we see it explode, or did we just happen to go back and measure it and say, oh my gosh, it's now much smaller and in a few different pieces?
Well, what we see are 7 jets coming out of these objects, more than 7 actually, after it passed close to the sun on October 29th. And we can see that some of these jets are pointed towards the sun, and they penetrate over 1 million kilometers through the solar wind. We know the properties, the density and speed of the solar wind, so we can figure out that for a natural comet, with the characteristic outflow speed of these jets that come off pockets of ice on a natural comet. Given that speed, we can tell that there is a lot of mass carried by these jets so that they can penetrate through the solar wind, about 5 billion tons. And in order to get that much mass out of ice, we need a large surface area of an object. And it turns out that it's a surface area of an object that is at least 20 kilometers in diameter, much bigger than the original estimate for the size of the object. So that would mean for a natural comet that it was broken up into many pieces such that the surface area, the total amount of surface of these many pieces adds up to the amount of mass that we need to release by vaporizing volatiles. Now, in the case of a technological object, maybe the jets are coming out of thrusters, in which case technological thrusters can reach much higher speeds for the gas that comes out of them, in which case we don't need as much mass. The fuel can be a small fraction of the mass of the spacecraft. So the coming weeks will be really decisive. Either we see a
Wait a minute. Isn't that what he said a few weeks ago?
fragmented object where the pieces...
I could have swore a couple weeks ago he said the next couple of weeks will really define what 3I Atlas is. So we moved the fence post now. Okay.
Will get separated from each other by the tide from the sun. Or we would see an object that maintains its integrity and has very high speed jets coming out of it, in which case we will have to contemplate a technological origin.
When are you going to know this, Avi? I mean, you're obviously watching how each of these 7 pieces now travels? If it's in a coordinated way, or?
Yeah, we will get data from hundreds of observatories around the Earth, plus the Hubble and Webb telescopes. In the coming weeks, by the middle of December, it will get closest to Earth on December 19th. And by then, I hope we will know the nature of the object, because if it's natural and it disintegrated, we would know what it was made of. We would see the pieces. However, if it maintains its integrity and you see high-speed jets coming out of it, we can measure the speed, we can measure the mass flux. We will know that it's something unusual. So I would hope that by the holidays, we would definitely know what the nature of this object is, and that would be a nice gift for all of us.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. We're being invaded by aliens. At least it sounds like, Avi, we'll know for sure one way or the other, which would be nice to have a definitive answer. Okay, Avi, on December 19th.
Okay, y'all. So this is what we call a deadline prophecy loop. Yeah, there's a term for it. It's been done so much. There's an actual term for it. A deadline prophecy loop. And that means if the date slips, then you just update the claim. If you remember, when the comet came on the other side of the sun, if it stopped there and didn't come on the other side of the sun, that was going to be the defining evidence. That was going to tell us if this was an alien ship or not. Oh, no. Now it's the next couple weeks. The next couple weeks are going to tell us for sure. Let's see. We got a comment here. Woo Riders DG. What's up, Woo Riders? He says, did you see the Japan photos of 3I Atlas and my thoughts? Well, I can't give you my thoughts because I have not seen it. Thanks for watching and commenting over on YouTube. I have not seen the Japanese photos, but I would probably feel the same way, that it's a natural thing that we have no data on, and so everything looks weird. If you only have 2 other interstellar objects and you're comparing your data to that, that's not enough data to say anything's regular or irregular. And so the whole thing about it being an alien ship is just ridiculous. And if you I mean, Avi Loeb has been on every show possible doing interviews about this, and he mentions funding on 9 out of 10 of those shows. And he mentions, the Pentagon spends billions on this, that, and the other. They should just give me some of that. And he's got all the right resume to be the guy the Pentagon hands those billions to. And I just think that's what it is. It's a play for money and funding. And I don't hate him for it. I just don't like the fear mongering. And I don't like the intellectual dishonesty. That's what it feels like to me. Not to mention, this was a recent observation today, detection of 1665 and 1667 megahertz OH absorption in 3i Atlas. So you think, they're observing radio signals from 3i Atlas. That means it's technical, right? No, not at all. So they observed 3i Atlas with Meerkat on 24 October 25 using the L-band receivers and the NE54EM correlator mode. Anyway, this is all really boring technical jargon. But essentially what it says is that 3i Atlas is natural. We sent radio waves to the comet, and it responds as all comets do. It's a comet. And they took this measurement, like they said at the top there. Oh, here we go. 4 November. So we're just getting the data on it now. Apparently they wanted to credential it, I guess. But yes, you can see here, the absorption features are consistent with the expected OH level population due to the heliocentric velocity of the comet. The detective OH on 24 October 25 contrasts with the Meerkat non-detection of these lines on 20 September 25. There you have it. So, Avi Loeb is privy to this report and this observation and this data. So why is he still giving explanations as if it's non-prosaic? That's a con job. That's a grift. That's what that is. I don't feel bad saying it. Okay, moving on. We have IC and all these classified guys looping in these podcasters, telling them what to say. It's insane. And it brought me back to the 90s. I'm from Oregon. And I remember a while ago, Waldport, Oregon is this little ocean town. And a while ago, this group of folks came to Waldport talking about aliens, talking about the next level and transcending. Being above human, I think is what they called it. That group was Heaven's Gate. If you don't remember, Heaven's Gate was a cult in California that they went around and hosted events in all different cities all throughout the United States. And at these events, they would convince people that they were communicating, or that the leaders of their group were communicating with this alien species, and that they were here to warn everybody that we have to ascend before planet Earth gets quote unquote recycled. Now that sounds crazy, right? But to a certain percentage of folks, it doesn't sound crazy. It sounds like it makes perfect sense. And there's folks in the disclosure community today I could say I would be worried about if they were tempted by Heaven's Gate. Of course, Heaven's Gate ended in 1997 when 39 members killed themselves. Actually, I think 20 of the 39 killed themselves because they believed they were supposed to get on an alien ship that was behind the Hale-Bopp comet. So here you have this prophecy, this date. You have a thing you can see. You have alien species, other dimensions. You have all these things we hear about today. So how did these people go from believing it and joining this group to mass suicide? And please, we're going to cover some of this stuff that does get into mass suicide. If you feel triggered, if you or a family or friend you know is suicidal, please call 988, the suicide hotline. And if you feel triggered by any of this, please just stop watching. Okay? All right, so we're going to start, well, in Oregon. Like I said, where I'm from. This is, I believe, some of the initial reporting from the case in Oregon.
Had disappeared on the Oregon coast after attending a lecture held by a middle-aged couple on UFOs.
Need to go back just a second here. Right about here. Okay.
In that period, it was really tough.
The story broke on national TV that 20 people had disappeared on the Oregon coast after attending a lecture held by a middle-aged couple on UFOs. And it was all very mysterious.
All we know is that these people that came back, they were very evasive with information. They just said that we are going on to a better thing, and they gave away everything, including kids. All of their material belongings, property, automobiles, boats, and money, and just left.
We're getting calls from all over the United States now of other people that have children missing, have received letters from them, from an area saying their children saying that they have completed their training and they will never see them again. And this is the type of information that's being filtered in.
Nobody knew where these people had gone. Eventually, postcards started to come back saying things like, "Dear Mom and Dad, I've seen the light. I'm going to follow it wherever it may lead. I'm healthy and happy. Don't worry about me. You'll never see me again. Love, Bob." You know, that was literally the kind of stuff that was happening. So there was this great mystery as to, you know, where have all these people gone? And then little by little, reporters dug out the fact that this was a UFO cult and it was led by a former music professor and a nurse.
The professor was Marshall Applewhite, also referred to as HERF.
So that was some of the initial reporting. They came to Waldport, Oregon, which is this, like I said, this little coastal town in Oregon. And they convinced a lot of people to join them. And these people, they left with them and they didn't say anything. They just left. And then later they left some, you know, they, like they were saying there, they sent some postcards. Some of them would make a phone call basically saying, "Hey, you're not going to see me again. I'm a part of this group now. And have a great life. But I'm out of here." This is another, you see the KGW vault. KGW is a local news provider in Oregon. And this is an old news story they did on when those people went missing.
They never asked us to give them anything. They just asked us to deal with ourselves.
Robert Rubin first noticed that message on posters around town. Posters also about UFOs, aliens, and life at a new level.
They use the analogy of the butterfly, from the caterpillar to the cocoon to the butterfly. And they said that human beings were like that. And we could go through a change and get to the next level.
The message came from a couple self-named The Two, Marshall Applewhite and his wife Bonnie Nettles. Reuben and 15 other Walport residents joined The Two, gave away their belongings, and disappeared to travel the West.
You know, we went around trying to get more members in, and we didn't work. We lived by Jesus' words, which was not to worry about anything.
Here's some fun stuff here.
Longtime residents say that's when it got crazy around town.
You have 100 people at a meeting, you're talking about a UFO that may land here and take people to outer space. All of a sudden, Time magazine's here, the New York Times is here.
But interest gradually died down. Members became disillusioned. Events promised never happened. After 5 months, Reuben returned home. He hasn't thought about his trip with The Two until now.
It's really sad what happened. I think they must have believed something they said because of what they did. And they killed themselves for this idea. So I'm sad.
We find a little bit of everything down in the KGW vault. We do want to mention anytime.
Pretty crazy. And yes, as I mentioned, 988 is a direct number to the Suicide and Lifeline. If you're feeling any kind of way, please. There are people there that are trained in how to help, and they will help. Okay, so these people come to Waldport, and they convince 20 of them to just disappear. Just leave everything behind, come with them to this home in California, and live with them. And it makes me think about, it reminds me of Skinwalker Ranch and other ranches out in that area by Utah, right? You have people leaving things behind, going out there, having these crazy experiences. At least that's what they're telling us, right? What is the proposition? Well, this is the leader Doe. There's 2 leaders. This is his kind of pitch, if you will. It's labeled as Cult Initiation Tape Part 1. There's actually a very much, a way longer one that gets way more in depth. But this was kind of the pitch. This is what they were telling people about their group and alien life, extraterrestrial life, and what they believe. And this is their number 1 leader here.
Classroom, or in old language, a couple thousand years ago, disciples. Those who are trying to prepare themselves for entry into the evolutionary level above human, synonymous with the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. We're going to talk to you about the most urgent thing that is on our mind, and what we suspect is the most urgent thing on the minds of those who will connect with us. We'll title this tape Planet Earth About to be Recycled. Your only chance to evacuate is to leave with us. Planet Earth about to be recycled. Your only chance to survive or evacuate is to leave with us. Now, that's pretty.
Okay, now if you just saw this guy and he was saying this stuff, most people, I think, would be like, cool, bro, I'm out. But we're going to go over a little bit of what those town hall meetings looked like here in just a moment.
Pretty major statement, pretty bold in terms of religion, in terms of anybody's intelligent thinking. To most people who would consider themselves intelligent beings, they'd say, well, that's absurd. What's all this doomsday stuff? What's all this prophetic stuff? You know, intelligent human beings should realize that everything has their cycle. They have their season. They have their beginning. They have their end. They have cycles. We're not saying that planet Earth is coming to an end. We're saying that planet Earth is about to be refurbished, spaded under, and have another chance to serve as a garden for another human civilization. Now, the reason this is such an interesting time is not only because we're on the threshold of the end of this civilization, because it's about to be recycled, but because of where that finds us, where that finds you, where that finds those who would judge us, how we would speak of them and how they would speak of us. Now you keep saying us. Who do you think you are? Well, I, in all honesty, must acknowledge my father. My father is not a human father. My father is a member of the evolutionary level above human, the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. My father gave me, long before this civilization, gave me birth into that kingdom level above human, that kingdom of heaven, that kingdom of God. Now you can say, well, I can't believe that. Well, it's up to you whether you believe that or not. That's not important to me, even though I wish that you could believe it for your sake. For those who do believe it, stand a possibility of a future beyond this recycling time.
Right. We're just here to help you. We're here to save you.
Now you say, well, according to religious literature, I thought there was someone else that was going to come and be our Savior here at these end days. That was going to be Christ's return. Well, the name Christ might be a little confusing, or the name Jesus, because the name Jesus, of course, was the name given to the body that mind that was indeed from the kingdom of heaven came. And that mind was here 2,000 years ago, and that mind came for the express purpose of teaching humans how they could be saved, how they would not be plowed under at the end of the age. Well, we're at the end of the age. So the one, or the mind that was in Jesus, what? That mind is in me? You'll have to decide that for yourself. I must admit that I am here again, that I'm here saying exactly the same thing that I said then, trying to say it in today's language, trying to hope that for your sakes you can see what we have to offer you, for our Father offers you life.
So I'm pretty sure he just said he was Jesus right there. In one way or another. So like I'm saying, you see this guy, you think, well, if this guy approaches me with those frickin' eyes, right, on the street, I'm not listening to what this man has to say. But that isn't how it happens. If you talk to people that wind up in cults, that's what they all say. It starts, and it doesn't seem like a crazy thing. And what these folks did in the beginning is what got such dedicated followers. This is in Chicago. Now you've got 5 people on the panel. This is in 1994, I believe. You got 5 people on the panel, and you've got a small room full of folks. But the amount of dedication you get if just one of those folks, just one, becomes a convert and believes, they'll hand over everything they have. Some of them even handed over their sex. Right? Like, seriously, some of them even got castrated. And they didn't even go to a doctor. Well, probably because a doctor wouldn't do that. But we're talking lopping off your little guy to prove you're dedicated to this group. It was almost like a competition. Who can prove they're the most dedicated? Which happens in any group, right? The ass kissers, the brown nosers. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So, again, if you had someone like Leslie Kean, who wrote the 2017 article, chatting with all these podcasters, holding events, and then bringing them into exclusive dinners and letting them know that off the record, the end is coming, y'all. The end is getting close. And then they see Avi Loeb with 3i Atlas and have a nervous breakdown. I'm kidding, of course, but could you go from Leslie Kean to living in a cult? You wouldn't think so. But is it possible? Maybe. Maybe just being aware of it will help. So that's what we're doing tonight. So again, you've got this small, intimate atmosphere, little room. You got a small group of folks telling you how wonderful things are and what they perceive as the truth with very much conviction. And all they've got to do is just get one person in this room to go for it. If they get more than one, even the better. But if they can get one, then this one meeting is worth it. So this happens in regular conversation. And let's watch how this would happen.
Towards the left, we have...
They all seem very nice.
We have Matt.
They all seem very friendly, down to earth.
June, Sawyer, and I'm Even. And we'll be starting out the meeting with a introduction, and then we'll be following it with a tape, probably a 15-minute segment, which will then be followed by question and answers. And if everyone would be so kind as to hold their questions until the question and answer period, we'd appreciate it.
If you've read the material, then hopefully you'll be prepared for some of what we're going to say, because we have what we feel is a very large picture. It's not the kind of information that's easily digestible by the human brain. And each one of you has a different computer, in other words, a brain, to try to understand what we're trying to say. And so we find ourselves in an awkward, to some degree, position of trying to interface with each one of you in your own lingo. Some of you may come from a background of some religious background, or Christian, or some of you may be Buddhists, or some of you may think religions are all off track. But we know the information that we have can speak to all of you. But it's also going to require of you that you listen and try to restrain judgment of what we're saying. Because the more you can listen, the higher you can reach for what we're saying, and the higher we can reach to try to be decent instruments of the information that we have. We're not channelers, but we feel like we're trying very hard to be in tune with that level above human that is responsible for everything that's been created on this planet. So what is the level above human? That might be one of your first questions. How do you define it? We refer to it as the evolutionary kingdom level above human. A physical place. In other words, where individuals have physical containers or biological bodies, where there are many members. Not necessarily as many as there are in the human kingdom, as there are not as many humans as there are animals in the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom. But we are talking about a real kingdom level. It's not the same thing as the astral world, the spiritual.
Now, how could people fall for this stuff? Why would people entertain this stuff? Why do people entertain anything that they entertain? It almost reminds me at this point so far of like Chris Bledsoe and the lady. Right? We know he has, at this point, a near cult-like following. So these are things to think about as you're watching this, the parallels between what these folks are saying and what we hear today in our communities.
Spiritual plane.
The astral plane.
We're talking about a place where people do things. They have function, they have activity, they have tasks, they make mistakes, they improve themselves. We use the word kingdom only because it better describes the fact that there is an individual that you could refer to as the king, who we would refer to more as the chief of chiefs or the creator of creators. And it is his love for the human kingdom, the stepping stone kingdom that he created, to give the opportunity for new membership in his kingdom by giving opportunities for human individuals to make a transition out of the human kingdom. He doesn't have to do that. Those in that kingdom have no need for more members. It is simply their gift to provide options for individuals in the human kingdom to make choices that would find themselves making application into that kingdom.
Maybe another way to come at this large piece of information, and we probably will come at it from several different points of view because it is such a big picture, is if you think about space, and a lot of our minds have been on space in the last couple of weeks with what's happening with Jupiter, and people have wondered, is there an intelligence behind the universe? Or is this all just happenstance? Well, maybe think about it from this perspective, that before the human kingdom, which we're all a part of right now, was, another kingdom actually existed, which is what we're calling an evolutionary kingdom level above the human kingdom. That kingdom existed before the dinosaurs, before amoebas, before anything on this planet. And in a very real sense, this whole planet, or you could call it a garden, is an experiment of that kingdom level. We all here are an experiment of a higher kingdom level, a very real kingdom level. That kingdom level has, like Sawyer was saying, many members. And let's say, for simplistic illustration, that the higher minds in that kingdom decided to have this experiment, and so in a sense they told their design department to design a garden. In a sense, they had to put around it all the elements that we're very familiar with, the periodic table of elements, and all the building blocks of life. And they were all put here not by happenstance, but by design. Everything that, even the very creatures on the planet are made up of all those elements. They were all put here. The atmosphere around the planet that was designed. And there's this debate, if you read the papers of Christianity, has this debate between creation and evolution, and we don't see any debate there at all, because that kingdom level can put into motion certain subroutines, which you might call evolution. Meaning that certain sequences of the development on this planet of, let's say, containers for creatures to occupy, as the soul has learned more lessons, you could trace, like anthropology can trace various chains or links between, let's say, amphibians and...
Okay, so you get it. Now this goes on for over 2 hours, right? Over 2 hours. And those people in that room, for the most part, are pretty captivated, because either A, you're captivated by how these people can believe this thing so much, you wonder if you're just not getting something, or B, you're just totally into it. You think there's something to it. And they speak with such conviction, like they have a knowledge that you don't. That people believe it, people buy it. So could this modern UFO disclosure, movement, whatever you want to call it, could people that become obsessed with this be replaying that same pattern, but this time amplified by social media, the internet, and everything else you can find out there? The thing about Heaven's Gate is that once they got you, they got you. They're separating you from your family. You're selling anything you own, if you own anything, and you're turning it over to them. And you're giving your life to them. You're living in that house. You're doing the chores. You're doing whatever they ask you to do, because you believe they hold the keys. They hold the keys to your salvation. They have some kind of knowledge, right? They have maybe an inside scoop, right? Maybe they've FOIA'd something that we haven't seen, or maybe there was a FOIA denial. There's no outside input to these people, and every event is reinterpreted as confirmation of their belief system. Once a belief system becomes total and closed to outside verification, then what happens in reality will bend it to fit the prophecy. Almost like changing your story about what something means when the time comes for it to mean something and it doesn't happen. Heaven's Gate called them messiahs. Are whistleblowers and scientists and insiders, are those our new messiahs? Back then, they waited for the craft behind the comet. Today, we wait for confirmation behind the next FOIA drop. Why the constant secrecy? Why the leaks? Why the NDAAs? Does it keep our faith in this subject alive rather than restoring it and providing resolution and answers? Does it serve those calling the shots better for us to believe in this extraterrestrial UFO, UAP thing? We know it did when they were testing the F-117. There was even testimony of some general that went down and put like a alien poster up at one of the local bars around Roswell or something. So there's been multiple accounts of officials and intelligence people pushing out stories. Why can Lakatsky do an interview on the Weaponized podcast and say that he breached the hull of a UFO? That is authorized to say, but he can't say anything else about it. Why give us the bone of breaching the hull of the UFO if they don't want us obsessing over it and focusing on it? This is session 1 of what they called Beyond Human, the Last Call. One thing about Heaven's Gate, they adopted the internet early. So like they were pushing out videos very early in the game. And I'm sure it got them even more followers in the long run. But this is where we're getting into the leaving the earth behind part. And really where it kind of starts getting off the rails.
Welcome to Beyond Human, the last call. We have a big picture to try to portray to you. You don't know us. You don't know what we represent. Beyond Human might say something, it might not, but it says a lot to us. And we want to share it with you. I've asked some students to help me. And you noticed on the opening title page that this was T, Doe, and students. I'm Doe, and sitting in front of me here are 2 students, June and Sawyer, and they're going to play your part in voicing for you questions that might enter your head. They may not necessarily be questions that would enter their heads because they've been students for a long time. but they will try to help me fill the gaps and not have too big of holes in the subject matter that we're going to try to cover for you. Rather than give you any history, well, I'm going to back up and give you a little history. In 1975, there were two individuals who came public, held some meetings around the country, and said that they were from the kingdom of heaven. And those two individuals were T and Do. T, my partner, who has returned to the kingdom of heaven and left me here with the responsibility of whatever is remaining of this task, for it was mine to fulfill. I learned in working with T as a partner that T is my older member. Now, I know that doesn't make much sense to you. What is an older member? Well, I'll go back to saying that T and I, when we held meetings across the country, said that we were from the kingdom of heaven, and that we had been given information on how to go from the human kingdom into the kingdom of heaven. At that time, we called it human individual metamorphosis. And as we held some meetings, quite a number of students, our followers, our curiosity seekers, just dropped whatever they were doing and came and listened to us, spent some time with us, a short period of time with us in some campgrounds, and we talked about the kingdom of heaven. The physical kingdom of heaven, not a spiritual kingdom of heaven. Not that it isn't spiritual, but it is not etheric. It is not only spiritual, which represents the character of the soul, but it is a physical kingdom as well. And as we talked about that kingdom to these students, after a very short time, and we had written a statement about it, these students took that statement and went across the country for 9 months, holding meetings in one little town, one big town, one little town, one big town after another. Sometimes they got run out of town because people didn't like what they were saying. They thought that it was anti-Christian, or it was New Age, or it was blasphemous. It's easy to see how people could think that it was all of those things, though it was none of those things. After that 9-month period of holding meetings around the country, T and I felt like we had instruction to call the students together and to begin an intensive or in-depth classroom training program. So all of the students came together, and at that time there were about 100 students that had survived the trek around the country of holding meetings, who still thought they wanted to go a little further and see what else they might learn from T and Do, if we really had anything to offer, or if this was the time for their excursion to end. When we met with those hundreds or so students and told them that this was dead serious, that we couldn't take them on as students unless they were ready to drop all of the behavior that they might still be participating in, that we knew was not common to the kingdom of heaven. And the more we stressed that they would have to drop that behavior, sex being the one that seemed to stand out the most, that people seemed to be so addicted to and hard to make that transition from, as we really got serious about it and knew that that one had to go, along with other addictions, drinking or smoking or drug usage, or needing to tend to old attachments or binds that still drew them.
Oh, it was an
to
attachment,
their
all
particular
right.
interest. The numbers started dwindling, and the classroom then ended up in somewhere in the 40s or 50s.
Yeah, they cut the attachment, all right. They had people cut their attachments right off. Unbelievable. So you can see he mentioned it at the very beginning. This was after his partner had passed away. A lot of people say that's when he really got on the spaceship behind the Hale-Bopp, and we're going to have to do ourselves in so we can catch a ride on it. Somehow they made it make sense because they said that their bodies are containers. So if they get rid of the container, it can float up to the space. Their soul can float up to the spaceship, which when you're looking from the outside in, again, you can tell it's just complete nonsense. But when you're on the inside looking out and you've already come so far, it's hard to not justify everything you're doing. And again, it just worries me with the current state of things. You know, could ascension, what they used to call it, could that be reframed as like a contact event or frequency upgrade, or like they talk about downloads, a download that maybe you accepted. They were very good at getting people to their content. And maybe that's where a lot of folks realize that emotion, reaction, novelty, not accuracy, is what gets clicks and engagement and attention. Apocalypse talk and leaked files have kind of replaced that. Insider only info. Right? Those are all those high click, high engagement drops we see. Instead of like some charismatic cult leader, it's kind of been replaced with an algorithm that knows how to reach the people they need to reach. So the system is kind of built to amplify, belief faster than the truth can come in and moderate it. A danger of having free speech, I suppose. So I wanted to go back. I mentioned the group from Waldport, Oregon, that all 20 of them just left. Some of them came back. Before the group actually suicided themselves and all went out at the same time, they recorded what they called exit interviews. This was one of the women from Oregon.
And Wakenodi, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes. I think I feel just like Arasodi does. And if people would just know that we're not forced into this in any way, it's, our own choosing to do it. And I'm really happy that I made this choice, because there was a lot of things kind of working against me not to, I'm sure. I know there was people in the world who thought that I had completely lost my marbles. They're not right. I couldn't have made a better choice, and I think I need to every day thank T&O and the Next Level for even letting me be here, because they don't need anybody. Just, I could say a lot more too, but for some reason, we always get kind of emotional when we start trying to convey our true feelings, because we know, I think, that the media is going to just, whatever. They're not going to present it the way we would like to be presented. Anyway, I wish you could all be here. I wish you were as lucky and fortunate as we are, I guess.
And we're looking forward to meeting T real soon.
Yes.
Her next level vehicle. That's our next level vehicle.
And what Arasodi said about Doe is just so right. I don't think any of us could be more happy.
Really wish she could be here as we take ourselves out to hop on the spaceship behind the comet. Y'all, that sounded like it made sense to them. They were making sense. They were making a good argument. Be careful who you listen to. Actually, scratch that. Listen to whoever the fuck you want to listen to. Be careful about what you accept as truth. Be careful about people that predict huge events happening on a certain timeline, and then when they don't happen, changing the timeline, changing the event. It is a telltale sign of a grift. You're getting used and manipulated for your money or your vote, either way. You're being influenced to think a certain way about a topic. Why does it seem like the mainstream is only kind of covering one narrative of this UFO topic when there are so many unknowns? Why does it seem like it's a script? Perhaps it is. And perhaps folks being taken into what they think is an exclusive chat with insiders and whistleblowers is really just an easy way to get you to say what they want you to say. All right, moving on. Matthew Livelsberger is back in the news for some reason. Not really sure why, but the New York Post just did a story on him. So we're going to take a look at that. And then I actually have my older video going over the Livelsberger case, and we're gonna take a look at that as well. Okay, so let me get this added up here. Now, this is the story. I'm going to change the layout. I guess that's a little bit better. Mystery deepens over Special Forces soldier who blew up Cybertruck outside Trump Las Vegas hotel. The mystery over why an Army Special Forces soldiers detonated a Cybertruck outside the Trump Las Vegas hotel on New Year's Day has only deepened with the final investigative report released by cops Monday. So there we have our answer. The final report was just released. The 70-page Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Post crime dossier confirmed that Matthew Livelsberger, a 37-year-old active member of the elite Green Berets, left a manifesto on his phone, although the Department of War has deemed it classified and will not release it. It's already out there, so I don't know why they classified it. You can download it. Livelsberger, known in the Army as a Rambo-type patriot, loaded up the rented truck with fireworks, gas tanks, and camping fuel before detonating it outside the lobby of the Trump property on the Las Vegas Strip. The attacker, believed to have been a staunch President Trump supporter, simultaneously shot himself as the truck began to burn, authorities said. The blast injured 6 people inside the hotel. Despite the War Department's decision to keep Livelsberger's manifesto under wraps, the LVMPD report references several clues about his motives. He left behind a note claiming the attack wasn't terror-related, but a way for the soldier to cleanse his mind while blasting the feckless leadership of a U.S. that is near collapse, authorities said. This is not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call, Livelsberger wrote in a notes app. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives? One of the attacker's notes was sent to Sean Ryan, a former Navy SEAL and CIA contractor. It has not been released in its entirety. The local cops report calls the explosion a premeditated attack involving a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device with the potential to cause mass casualties and extensive structural damage. Livelsberger had served in the Army since 2006 and in Afghanistan in 2009. He was on leave from assignment in Germany at the time. His wife had dumped him 6 days before over an argument about his apparent infidelity, prompting him to leave his Colorado Springs home the day after Christmas. 2 sources familiar with the investigation told the Post in January. His wife, who had a baby daughter with Livelsberger, reportedly told him that she knew he had been cheating, sources said. After leaving Colorado, Livelsberger rented the truck through the Toro app and made his way to Vegas, the police said. The FBI had been investigating whether Livelsberger's target, the iconic hotel that bears the president's name, had been politically motivated. LVMPD officials have claimed they have no control over the release of the contents of Livelsberger's manifesto. The Department of Defense has exercised control over the manifesto. The local cops claimed the manifesto does not record any public business and thus is not a public record. Instead, it is evidence collected by law enforcement pursuant to an investigation. Their own after-action report details a police response and ensuing investigation by several agencies, including the U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Division, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and the FBI. Now, what I find very interesting in that report is that there's absolutely no mention of why he did it. The why behind it, according to him, in his manifesto, was because of anti-gravitic drones or ships that China had that could essentially destroy us. That's why he said he did what he did. Now, like I was saying, I did a piece on this quite a while ago. I did a little podcast on this quite a while ago. Put together a compilation of what was going on at that time. And let's check this out. This was very shortly afterwards, and very, like, within a day or two after the actual Sean Ryan interview here.
And we're learning more about the New Year's Day explosion of a Tesla Cybertruck that happened right outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. You see the video there. That includes details on the suspect and his apparent motive.
Federal authorities identified the man who blew up the Cybertruck as 37-year-old Matthew Livelsberger of Colorado Springs.
All right, authorities are looking into a potential link between the attack in New Orleans and the explosion of a Tesla Cybertruck outside the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas.
That the Tesla Cybertruck that burst into flames outside of the Trump International Hotel in Vegas is being looked into as a possible terror attack.
CCTV footage shows a Cybertruck exploding outside of the entrance of Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas this morning. And moments later, you can see what looks like fireworks shooting out from the vehicle. One person, the driver, was killed, 7 others injured. minor injuries, that is. And
we are learning more tonight about the man behind the wheel of the Tesla Cybertruck that exploded outside the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas. He has been identified as a highly decorated active duty Army Green Beret who loved his country and loved President Trump.
The FBI is sifting through tips to find out why a highly decorated Army soldier blew up a Tesla Cybertruck outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. A law enforcement source says the driver was Matthew Livelsberger.
Well, Jim, this is very shocking to the people who knew him, who've spoken to CNN. Someone who used to work with him said that he had advanced steadily in rank in the military to team sergeant and then second in command to the captain of the Special Forces Detachment.
Well, we do know this is somebody who was a Green Beret, active duty, by the way. He had been awarded multiple medals. The ATF says the, quote, level of sophistication is not what you'd expect from someone who has all of these sort of accolades and training, but
the first things first, we need more information. We need.
This is about for the FBI because the chat online and everywhere, including that manifesto that was sent to the podcast, is saying he was trying to send a message about war crimes that allegedly happened. I know you had also mentioned that there are parts of the document that you're unable to release due to the Department of Defense saying that there's maybe some classified information. So is there any validity to what he said in that initial email out to the podcast?
Spencer Evans, Special Agent in charge of the FBI's Las Vegas division. In terms of a question about the validity of what Livelsberger put out to the public, either in the two-page manifesto or additional documentation we're discovering, we're not speaking to the content. I can say, as Sheriff Corrin described and others, it runs the gamut. I mean, he's talking about feeling that he was, surveilled, guilt. You can tell there's, some anguish there, some frustration with the government. I mean, there's a whole host of things. So we haven't gotten into, what's legitimate, what's not. The only thing that, out of an abundance of caution, in as much as there's Department of Defense equities that speak to sources and methods or something else that would endanger folks overseas, that's not being released. But beyond that, we haven't vetted any of his writings to determine, what's legitimate and what was in his own head.
Including whatever happened in 2019?
Yeah, including, he alleges a variety of things, and we haven't gotten into the weeds on any of that.
That podcast email is him.
Yeah, so we have confirmed that the document that he sent to the podcast, we know that he was the one that sent that document. That's correct.
Perfect. One other thing that I just wanted to say to the audience is, even though we are redacting these names from the episode, you passed that, I believe you passed that email on to the FBI.
Yes.
We're also going to pass it on to our contacts at the FBI. It's very obvious that people know it. Like I said, the CID has been telling everybody. In fact, we talked to Jeremy, who's sitting over there, my producer, me, him, and my attorney, Tim Parlatore. We're up till about 10:30 last night talking to the chief of staff?
The Army Chief of Staff PA.
The Army Chief of Staff's POA took a major interest in this as well. And, one of the things that he said, I'll wait till later to bring that up, but I don't know. I don't trust any of these people. I mean, public affairs officers are there to...
I'll keep my mouth.
Yeah, create...
Yeah. PAO is there to protect the command.
Yeah.
100%, nothing else.
But... And you know what's interesting? Fuck it, I'm just going to say it. You know what he said? He goes, between me and you guys, this guy's DNA didn't match his son. And made it sound like it's some big secret. Then at 9:34 p.m., I think it was 9:34 p.m., the New York Post had a headline that said that this guy's... So they're trying to make it sound like this guy did this because... maybe he found out the son wasn't his, but there's a lot more to the story, as you'll find out. So
yeah, it's right here. This manifesto, if you want to call it that, came in on Tuesday. And when I started reading this, my initial take was, okay, this is off the deep end. It's bonkers. I can't validate or verify any of the stuff in this manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him that in a subsequent email. And I'll read that to you later, my response to him. And once again, my response to him elicited, hey, get me in contact with Sean Ryan, Fox News, and he even said Pete Hegseth. Get me in contact with Hegseth. And I'm like, dude, I don't have the incoming Secretary of Defense's phone number. Sorry, bro. I said, this is obviously a very big deal, but I don't have anything to verify this information with. Talking about gravitic propulsion systems without evidence just makes me another UFO talking head.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, what is a gravitic propulsion system?
To be honest with you, it is a fancy term you're going to find in science fiction. You won't find it in any, as far as I know, you won't find this in any kind of official manual or, you know, scientific research. This is all science fiction. Now, not then, but what strikes me now is his use of a very specific term that nobody else call it. If you asked me, I would say an anti-gravity propulsion system. That's how I would describe it, because I don't know this stuff. He said gravitic propulsion system.
And the thing that he was talking about in 2019, we pulled a report. This is from October 9th, 2019. UN report find alleged drug facilities were not lawful target airstrikes caused significant civilian casualties. The USASOC wants to give me more context on what had happened on this guy. And so first I wasn't going to take the call because I don't trust the government anymore. I don't think anybody does. Tim sent me a picture of him shooting with this guy. And I don't know if I should release that photo or not, but Tim basically told me this. So I got the POA's number, the public affairs officer, sent it to Jeremy and Tim. He talked to them. And what they wanted us to know was that this guy was an upstanding soldier, an excellent operator, was moving on, was moving towards retirement and moving on to basically enhance the future of warfare. They wanted us to know that. Then the PA officer, sounds like almost jokingly said, which I don't know why you would joke about this, said that, oh, and between us, which why the fuck would a POA officer say between us? I mean, if they didn't want us to know that information, then they just wouldn't have told us that. But they wanted us to know, obviously, that the DNA with his supposed child was not a match. And so I think what they were trying to do is basically make this out to be, oh, this is why this happened. He got bad news that that's not his child, and so that's why he did it. But with all the other context, especially with the 2019 incident, which was obviously a cover-up, I think that has a major role in this. I mean, it's very obvious why he did this, I think. He wanted to bring attention to the incident in 2019 that got covered up. Do you have any insight, any theories on this?
So we had a running theory downstairs. I've seen all of the conspiracies. I've seen all the questions about, all right, this guy is what, 20-year special forces. He just got done with team sergeant time. He is a very qualified and very capable Green Beret. I still work in intelligence. I'm an intelligence officer. I work for a nonprofit, all kinds of stuff. Border operations. Most recently, we've been involved in West North Carolina a great deal. And we had some confirmed reporting through two solid sources. And this is where I have to be very iffy. And I told him in the car, and he can tell you offline, I cannot say this on the air, but we had two solid sources, one south of the border and then one from an element within our own government that confirmed independently of each other that some Iranian-made man pads, so surface-to-air missiles, had come across the border. We had the location and everything else. Well, Doc, that's what he goes by, Doc Chambers, he put this out on a podcast, and I was very emphatic, like, this is not stuff that I like to put on social media. I'm an intel guy by trade. This stuff is not for social media consumption. We got this to Secret Service. We did the whole gamut and got everything pushed to them, and that's why Trump was pushing a lot of this stuff out when he was, because we had told the Secret Service and they had the reporting and everything else. But we have not, to my knowledge, have not recovered those man pads. Now, I'm not privy to that, but what I do know we have done is we have apprehended the couriers on a second run of theirs, and we have local law enforcement got together with federal law enforcement and rolled up the safe house in, I will not say that on this show, but they rolled up the safe house where it was, And we have since identified what that issue was on the border.
Now, let me just, where did they come through?
They came through an actual point of entry, in a legal point of entry along the border. I'd have to pull up the original reporting, but we had the actual.
So we now have Iranian missiles. Who knows how many inside the United States?
That is not something you're going to see in a lot of places. Like I said, I didn't even want to talk about it. It was one of those things where I was just amplifying what he was putting out already, because I was like, man, I don't know about putting this out. But it was something we found was pertinent, because at the time, Trump was still campaigning. He was flying around, and there was the reports were their intent was to take down Trump's airplane. So at the time, Secret Service switched things up a bit, and allegedly, from what I've told, they started flying him around on charters for a while.
Was there something in that email again that said that this would prevent World War III with the UAP?
Well, it didn't say it would prevent World War III, but he was asking that, he said, you need to elevate this to the media so we avoid a world war, because this is a mutually assured destruction situation.
I wonder what he's trying to do with these, what he's trying to tell us with these drones.
I hesitate to even get into this realm, because I have no expertise in drones, or let's just call it alien technology, UFO technology, whatever's going on here. Several weeks ago, I don't know if you saw that video, it was a New Jersey sheriff or chief of police, I can't remember which, but he flew their own drone up, their own department drone up, to try to figure out what was going on. So we had all these drone issues that were being sighted off of New Jersey and everything. And what he commented on video was how fast these things were. He said, we have a pretty robust drone, and they flew it up there to try to catch these drones that were there, and they just, bam, they were gone. He said there was no catching them, never seen anything like it. They don't even know, they have no idea what that could have been.
Nobody seems to know what the drones are, and it just, kind of disappeared out of the media.
At that time, Sergeant Fennessy, who's an experienced drone operator and pilot, and Officer D'Amico spotted one of the items that brought us concern. They videotaped it as far as they were. They got some tape on it. They described it as going around their drone and traveling off at a high rate of speed. And at that point, we got notified by our 911 center there was concern of a sighting in Island Beach State Park. We responded. We met an officer, and that officer did an excellent job. She documented. That's where you're getting the reports of 50 drones coming off the ocean. That's what she reported seeing. She was on duty at the time, and she reports that she saw 50 drones coming from the ocean to the mainland, transversing the airways over Island Beach State Park, going down towards Barnegat Light and coming to the seaside area. Obviously, they want us to know they're there. They put on their lights. So who it is, I wish I could tell you. We don't know.
We have a number of reports that had occurred over a month ago in North Jersey, has worked its way down to Monmouth and Ocean County, continues night after night to be a problem and an issue for our residents. And as the congressman said, our own military personnel.
As the sightings increase, including by service members at Naval Weapons Station Earl, and I did talk to the commander there, his men are seeing it right there at the base. Are you kidding me? A munitions depot of that caliber, and these drones are hovering in close proximity to it. The Coast Guard told me the other day, and Sheriff Mastronardi, that one of its 47-foot rescue boats was followed in very close proximity off its stern by numerous drones. Many of them seem to be coming from the ocean, and 50 of them coming from the ocean to mainland. Is there something out there? We don't have the capability to do that. The elusive maneuvering of these drones, I would suggest a major military power sophistication that begs the question whether they have been deployed to test our defense capabilities, or worse, by violent dictatorships, perhaps maybe Russia or China or Iran or North Korea. The Pentagon has said the drones are not ours. Knowing that drone warfare has radically changed warfighting in Ukraine and Russia, the Middle East and elsewhere, this is not the time to trivialize or dismiss the threat.
Med Flight 8 Patterson Tower, use extreme caution for heavy UAS movement on the base. Security forces is handling the situation, and I gotta keep the lights down so that security forces can see.
The U.S. Air Force says unidentified drones have been spotted over 4 joint U.S. and U.K. military bases in England.
I mean, the details are still very limited at this time. We do know that the sighting started last week on November 20th, and they have really ranged in size, in style, and also the amount that we've been seeing over that last week or so.
Again, it would be, premature to draw any conclusions. We've got to see what these are. I mean, it's entirely possible that it could be hobbyists or something else. We just got to look into it.
Serious new questions now about the nation's national security and who exactly has their eyes on our skies. New reports that mysterious drones are swarming a U.S. military base and did so for 17 days in December of last year. The Pentagon says it's stumped with no idea who is behind it. The incident recalls the Chinese spy balloon.
In December 2023, U.S. Air Force commanders at Langley Air Force Base in Southern Virginia, home to the F-22 Raptors, noticed over a period of 17 days dozens of unidentified drones would begin flying over the base shortly after dusk each night. 3 months earlier, mysterious drones were also spotted flying over a sensitive nuclear facility in Nevada. It is not clear whether these incidents were related.
You're telling me we don't know what the hell these drones are in New Jersey are? Is that correct? That's right.
On the West Coast, a Chinese citizen has been arrested, accused of using a drone to snap aerial photos over Vandenberg Space Force Base.
I think the bigger issue is China and our adversaries trying to grab every opportunity for intelligence.
Here's what we know so far. In October of last year, 5 drones flew over a little-known government site in Nevada used for nuclear weapons experiments. Then in recent months, more unidentified drone swarms, as they've been described, flew near Edwards Air Force Base near Los Angeles. And here's the doozy of them all. Last December, the biggest incursion we know, a dozen or more drones every night for 17 nights straight, circling the area of Langley Air Force Base along the Virginia shore.
The number of those UAS incursions did fluctuate on any given day, but they didn't appear to exhibit any hostile intent.
The military does not think this is just a bunch of hobbyists, right?
No, that was like initially when this started to happen, I think that was a theory, but then it was rejected quickly because it's the sheer number of the drones that were flying over this base.
Tonight, Camp Pendleton is acknowledging recent drone activity near the base as concern continues growing over mysterious similar sightings in New Jersey and other parts of the country.
That's right. After hearing reports of possible drone incursions into Camp Pendleton airspace, I reached out to command personnel on base, and they confirmed those reports.
That over the period of a week from December 9th to the 15th, quote, there were 6 instances of unmanned aerial systems observed entering Camp Pendleton's airspace, with no threat to installation operations and no impact to air and ground operations, end quote. This follows similar reports of drone incursions over the Hill Air Force Base in Utah and the Wright-Patterson Base in Ohio. Unidentified drones have also been spotted over the U.S. Air Base at Ramstein in Germany.
New defenses are being eyed for Langley Air Force Base in Hampton. This after mystery drones flew overhead at least 17 days last year. Langley Air Force Base at Joint Base Langley Eustis is home to the F-22 Raptor stealth fighters, one of the main aircraft used to help defend us here at home. The Journal article reports that dozens of drone sightings happened between December 6th and December 23rd of last year. They said they were very difficult to track, and at this point, there is no indication that they were a threat. However, it's clear the military wants to be ready in case they are.
Saying this, I'm not here to alarm anyone. Fear has no place in responsible leadership. The information I have shared recently comes from high-level, credible sources, people with expertise and clearance to assess real threats. If I stayed quiet and something happened, I would never be able to forgive myself. Here is what we know. Drones are flying into the United States airspace, coming in and out of international waters. This fact alone demands our attention and we must investigate it no matter what. We know there's an Iranian drone ship that went missing from its port, and the timing of its disappearance is circumstantially consistent with the beginning of the appearance of these drones. These drones are reportedly the size of minivans. This is not the work of a backyard hobbyist. We know it is not a commercial entity, so we are only left with two possibilities. Either it is our government, or it is a foreign adversary. Even as officials admit, they don't know exactly what these drones are. We don't know where they come from, what they contain, and what their purpose is. The truth is, unidentified drones flying freely in our airspace is unacceptable in the United States of America. We've been down this road before. When the Chinese spy balloon crossed our skies, we were told it wasn't a threat. We later learned it was actively gathering intelligence.
So he had two objectives. One, he definitely wanted to bring light to 2019. That obviously affected his code of morals, and the drones.
Yeah.
And he's obviously very worried about World War III, which I think everybody right now. But why Trump Hotel? Why Las Vegas?
Yeah. If I had to guess, just in the realm of conjecture again, I would say Trump Tower. It draws more media, more fanfare. Was this an assassination attempt? That kind of stuff. So you get more press, more media pulling into it because it is such a significant namesake, if you will. But at the same time, it was a fireworks display, and very little more. He didn't want to hurt anybody. He wanted to send a message.
Yeah, there definitely wasn't mass casualties. He wasn't trying to hit mass casualties, because otherwise he would have done it at another location as well. In my opinion, this definitely wasn't incompetence.
Another thing to support this. So you got the email. He desperately wanted to talk to you before December 31st. He knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, January 1st was go day. Nobody was pressuring him. At the beginning of this email, we see, first of all, I'm not under duress or hostile influence or control. Okay. So he says that he reached out to you. He was very emphatic that it had to be before December 31st because he was doing this thing on January 1st. For some reason, that was a landmark day to him. Maybe it was just because big day for everybody, January 1st. The thing he was trying to do was, overall, more than anything, was get a message across on the biggest platforms possible. He was trying to talk to Pete Hegseth. Why would you want to talk to the Secretary of Defense? He's trying to blow the whistle on these war crimes. He's trying to say this thing happened, man. Like, I can't live with this anymore. He desperately needed to talk to you, the biggest platform out there. He needed to talk to Fox News. I need to get this message out. That was his overall goal.
On this particular 6-page document, there is material that we still have not been able to work completely through with our federal partners and the Department of Defense, and some of that material may be classified. So we will not be releasing that document yet in its entirety. You will see some excerpts from that document here in just a few moments. We also have clear evidence in this case now that the suspect used ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, to help plan his attack.
So just a couple of things to note that Sean Ryan pointed out there is Matthew Livelsberger was a certified badass. Okay. He is a Green Beret. I can tell you, certified badass. Okay. And if he wanted to design a bomb that would have hurt a lot of people, killed a lot of people, he would have done that. This bomb was a show. Literally a show. I mean, he literally used fireworks. He wanted it to be a show because he wanted to draw attention to two things. One, the anti-gravitic propulsion technology that China apparently has. Two, the 2019 war crime that he feels like he helped along, where we targeted buildings in Afghanistan with known civilians in them, saying that they were drug labs when they probably were not drug labs. And we killed a lot of innocent people, including women and children. He's carrying that weight, plus the weight of a technology he fears could mean the end of the country. That's where his head is at, or was at.
The suspect believed he was being followed all the way from Colorado. And I want to make it clear that our suspect in this case has never had a criminal history, nor was he on the radar of the FBI or the LVMPD prior to this bombing.
As the sheriff pointed out, we have a few developments, one on the video analysis and the video evidence that we've recovered, the others on the physical evidence that we've recovered from the vehicle, and finally the digital forensics. You'll see the suspect here in the video. He'll end up pulling out a can of racing fuel from the back of the vehicle, and then he'll start pouring that racing fuel onto the back where there's contents of explosive materials. In addition to this video, we also have additional evidence that includes showing that the vehicle was leaking upon his arrival to Trump Towers. Also, you can see that his hands are on the steering wheel as he's pulling up. And then finally, we're going to show a video here, and ATF will elaborate on this a little further in their briefing, but of the explosion that occurs. You're going to see frame by frame, you'll see an initial flash prior to the larger explosion. So we'll pause right there. That's the initial flash that happens right before the large explosion. You're going to see a still in a moment. Right there's the initial flash. And then following that is the large explosion. Our financial records, his journal entries, a variety of other things confirm that he did purchase what he believed was tannerite, but it was a different form of exploding targets that has has ammonium nitrate and aluminum in it, which is one of the explosive materials that he had. You can see he talks about purchasing the firearms, in particular the Desert Eagle and the AR pistol. On December 28th, the following day, just an excerpt for you, talks about picking up the Cybertruck as a rental and purchasing exploding targets. Now, moving on to that 6-page manifesto that the sheriff talked about. This document was found as part of the digital forensic analysis.
Okay, so this is the official timeline here. December 28th, he takes possession of the Cybertruck in Denver. He rented it from the owner on the Turo app. And he sent the emails to the podcasters. That was on December 28th. So what we just saw Sean Ryan talking about, he received those emails we showed on December 28th. Those emails also, I guess, exclusive now because those are now classified. So we'll see how much longer we can keep this video up before they take it down. December 30th, Cybertruck is charged at a Tesla charging lot in Monument. Livelsberger continues reaching out to media sources that he trusts. On the 31st, charging records show a stop in Trinidad, Las Vegas, Albuquerque, and Gallup, Nevada, and New Mexico. He sends more emails stating after January 1st, he'll be gone. And then January 1st, of course, 17 seconds after the truck arrives at Trump Tower, Livelsberger shoots himself in the head and the truck explodes. So what the sheriff was explaining there is that he actually, that first light that you see, that first explosion is actually his gun shooting himself, and then the truck explodes.
Of his phone. He also says that he has graphic encounters from his military experience that replay in his head over and over, and that now he feels like he's a shell of a human being with nothing to live for. Just continuing on that manifesto, a few other excerpts for now is he discusses the concerns about the withdrawal from Afghanistan and losing his teammates, which again builds upon that potential PTSD that we're referring to. He does transition at some point and talks about being concerned of the media labeling him as a terrorist and that he had no intent on killing anyone else aside from himself. He does talk about his intent to make this as public as possible.
My name is Kenny Cooper. I'm an assistant special agent in charge of ATF San Francisco Field Division. This is an explosion and not a detonation. The initiating flame to these explosives could have been from several possible sources, and cannot be confirmed or eliminated at this point of this investigation. Due to the near simultaneous fatal gunshot, fatal gunshot, and device initiation, it is possible that the muzzle flash alone was an initiation source to the fuel.
I mean, that's such bullshit. He can barely say it. You're telling me the flash of the gun, the muzzle flash, caused the explosion? I mean, that would have to be one primed up cabin of that truck in order for that little flash to cause all that. I don't know.
Air explosion. That initial flash point is consistent with the area of the driver that was found in that vehicle and the self-inflicted gunshot wound. That visual.
And Psionic, I did put it up. Psionic thinks the video is just fake altogether, which is possible. I mean, now with AI, it's sometimes it's very hard to tell, especially with videos that look like this, right? Look like they're from a security cam. The AI doesn't have to be like 4K high def, right? It can be a little more forgiving.
Just visually characterizes.
However, I mean, that's pretty rough. I mean, you can't, if that's fake, that's, I mean, you can see them in there. You can, yeah. Ugh.
Exactly what a fuel air explosion is as it propagates from the initial ignition and eventually moves throughout the vehicle. Even though this goes fast as it's played through, in orders of magnitude, this is much slower than a detonation of high explosives.
I will tell you that we still have an outstanding laptop, another mobile phone, and a smartwatch that we still need to get into and recover information from. There remains much to investigate and to analyze about this incident so that we can, number one, learn from it, but number two, continue to keep our community safe. So the question was, we mentioned that the explosion could have been much greater. However, one of the things that he wrote was that he didn't intend to hurt anybody else, and maybe I'd just let you, Kenny, answer how it could have been much greater.
So our initial findings of 60 plus pounds of explosive material, if he was to achieve a high order detonation of that, it would have been a significantly different blast. So in essence, he had the material there, the exploding targets. If that was shot with a rifle round, it would have had a detonation versus a deflagration effect.
But instead, fire went over the targets, which is why they did.
Fire initiated the vapors, causing a fuel air vapor explosion.
When more photos started emerging as to what he looked like in some photos from earlier in his life, 10 years, 15 years ago when I knew him, before I was able to put it together, and I was just flabbergasted. I was left speechless. I couldn't believe it because I really enjoyed the time that I got to spend with him, and I found him to be incredibly competent and talented as a special forces operator. And man, I was floored, to be honest. I didn't know what to do or say. Start to finish, categorically, the guy was a great dude. He was fit. He was a good shooter. He was a good communicator. There's 5-6 events that we did in this rally competition show, mostly based around soldier skills, and in every instance, he was seemingly a great person. None of this checks out. On the Special Forces side, he was first a Special Forces communications sergeant, and then an intelligence sergeant, and then ultimately an 18 Zulu. So he went through kind of every single one of the checks and balances. He was a talented Green Beret. And sounds like everybody liked to work with him. So none of this makes sense, and it's so heartbreaking. I truly hope that this is a wake-up call for service members to make sure that we're checking in with each other right now. But it's so heart-wrenching. Something broke, and they're very scary letters to come from somebody that is so talented in so many different things. You know, the selection process for Green Berets is arduous, and they're very, very particular, and very rarely do you see, of course there's going to be bad apples, but this doesn't seem like a bad apple. This seems like somebody that was hurt or broken or very scared.
I failed him. We all failed him. He was just checking up on me.
What began as casual messages quickly became the last words she would ever exchange with him. The Master Sergeant served in the U.S. Army for almost 20 years. He was even featured on the History Channel series Ultimate Soldier Challenge in 2013.
We're gonna go full out just like we've done the entire challenge.
He was really open about the trauma he faced and the teammates he lost.
On December 29th, Livelsberger sent pictures of the Cybertruck he rented.
He sent some front views, and he shared he felt like he was Batman or Halo.
It wasn't until 2 days later, when the FBI contacted Eric, that she found out what happened in Las Vegas.
They started to show me a video of him in the Cybertruck. My whole heart broke for him. That he was so broken that he got to that place.
Eric is still struggling with why Livelsberger would take his own life.
He didn't say anything explicit that would have triggered it, I guess.
But none of this has made sense, and it hasn't made sense since the beginning.
They asked me to identify some of his tattoos. But other than that, they also asked if they could take Riley's DNA, which I did not hesitate with. And they took that towards the end of us being there. They ended up swabbing Riley's mouth, and that was at the very end. I think that, it's hard. It's hard not to, keep track of what's going on, because you kind of live in this space of denial, right? And you're just like, I hope that this is wrong. I think the most sick and twisted thing is once people started talking about how Riley's DNA didn't match Matt's, and it gives that false hope, right? It gives that hope that maybe that wasn't my husband in the vehicle. I immediately called the coroner and I asked if her DNA matched, and she said yes.
Did that sound like your husband to you?
I'm not sure. I was getting most of the information as it was released to the public. Right as, I would get a call to let me know. I knew about the surveillance log, and like I said before, it answers questions of why he left. I know there were speculations I kicked him out of the house, and that was definitely not true. They have let me know within his 6-page letter that there are parts for me and our daughter. These are for me and my daughter. But I do feel comfortable sharing a little tidbit of that. He said, I have a wonderful wife and 7-month-old baby girl. All I ever wanted to do is have a family. My wife and daughter are the most incredible humans on this earth. Please physically protect my family, mostly because they are going to get caught up in all of this. I think that Matt was protecting us until the very end. I think he knew why he was leaving. He thought that he was being followed. He didn't want, to be in our home where his daughter and I are. And he clearly thought about us until the very end of, I think that's why he kind of stopped communicating with us. My biggest thing, like I said, is I just want to make sure that people understand who my husband was. And, that none of this makes sense. I hope at some point we will receive answers. These are just strictly facts that I know them. And I think that's it.
Wow. It's pretty messed up. The New York Post article that I just read earlier, still parroted that same BS story that she had kicked him out and they were having all these marital problems. I don't think they were having any more marital problems than any other married couple. It sounds to her like they were in love. Maybe they were having a rocky time. These soldiers, they deal with PTSD from the missions that they were on. And it sounds like Matt was not only dealing with PTSD, but dealing with some guilt because he feels like he was part of a strike that wasn't legal and that they killed innocent people. And you're carrying that with you. That's tough. That's got to be tough. So it just goes to show, even in a case like this, where we're talking about the loss of a hero and, there's a son involved, they still parrot bullshit. They still didn't call the wife and get her side of it. It's incredible. All you have to do is a search on YouTube to find that video. It's not hard, journalists. Pretty sad. So, he was warning us about anti-gravitic drones and that we were committing war crimes in Afghanistan. And that's the message he wanted out. So when you think Matthew Livelsberger, when you hear about his case or the incident that happened in Trump Tower, remember that man was a hero. That he risked his life for this country on multiple occasions. And even when deciding to make a violent scene so that people will pay attention, was making sure that nobody else was killed. There's a lot more to the story, I think. Hopefully that will be uncovered down the road. But yes, when you think of Livelsberger, let's think about anti-gravitic devices and war crimes that we may have committed in Afghanistan. Well, that we did commit in Afghanistan. It's already been kind of ruled on. All right, y'all. That's going to do it for this episode. Kind of a heavy one, right? Because we're talking about people we enjoy listening to, maybe having their opinions influenced by what they think are exclusive insiders. It turns out it might just be another way to influence the narrative, rake in more dollars, whatever. Yeah, Zionic prayers for his family. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yes. Does that mean I hate podcasters that bought into this? No. I think it's a lesson, right? If someone says they're going to make you part of an exclusive group and give you the inside information and the lowdown on what's really going on, you have to look at their motivation. Why? Why are they choosing you? And what's in it for them? The age-old question. 3i Atlas is a comet. It's been proven with radio signals. It is not a ship. We are not being approached by drones. And yeah, that's going to do it for this week. I know it's not a very uplifting episode, but it's a real episode. And so I hope y'all soak it in. And you're just very careful about what you're accepting as truth. If you think something is true, fact check it. Do your own research. We hear that a lot, but you really got to do it this time because it's getting so crazy that we might be dealing with the new Heaven's Gate pretty soon. And a part I didn't even get to, that I'm going to get to on another episode, is that there are still Heaven's Gate believers. There's still a couple of old Heaven's Gate members that feel bad that they didn't leave with the crew. So we're 20 some odd years later. It's the same stuff. People are susceptible to the same stuff. It's a recipe. Have a fantastic night, y'all. And thank you for tuning in. We will see you on the next podcast. Enjoyed talking with you and enjoyed the comments and the active chat. Much more active chat today than usual. Thanks so much for that. I really appreciate it. Have a good evening. I can't even talk. See, that's when I know it's time for me to end the show. Have a good evening, everyone. I'll talk to you soon.